Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everyone, please sing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kalachandri Radha Kalachandri Radhe. Jaya Radha Kalachandri Radha Kalachandri Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Asto Tadasata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Kirtan 50 Kirtan Festival Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji Ki Jai. So, I first want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam. A lot of people asked, are you nervous? You're on the hot seat. Everybody's listening to what you'll say. And those things are all true. But also at the same time, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a gift that is also incomparable, like the holy name, like the Sankirtan movement. The opportunity to even hear Srimad Bhagavatam, what to speak of, to study, and to share the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is an opportunity that is so rare that every moment that we have, really trying to make the most of it weighs more than any kind of discomfort in the service. So we'll be hearing today from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about a very special Kirtaniya. It'll be a surprise. But before we start, we will chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Jayam Mudhirayat. So we are reading from the 7th canto entitled 15th chapter rather, entitled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. I'm going to find the verse here. There are 3 parts of this particular edition of the 7th canto, so we're finding part 1, part 2, part 3. which part it's in. Yes. So we don't have the verse, so I'll just read it and then read the translation, and we'll continue from there. The special personality that we're going to be hearing about today is Narada Muni, which was really sweet because I didn't know. We didn't know what the dance was going to be. So it was very beautiful that there were a few parts in it about Narada Muni. So this particular section, Narada Muni is speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj, and he's sharing with him many, many different instructions. And in this particular section, he shares actually about his own life and his own realizations from lives that not only he's living now, but the lives that he was living before. So Narada Muni says, Aham pura bhavam kaschid Gandharva upabarhana namna tite mahakalpe Gandharvanam susammata. Long, long ago, in another Mahakalpa, millennium of Brahma, I existed as the Gandharva known as Upabarhana. I was very respected by the other Gandharvas. So Narada Muni wasn't always Narada Muni, which is very unique because most of the pure devotees that we hear about, because we're coming in the line of Srila Prabhupada, who's coming in the line of the six Goswamis, who's coming in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we hear about Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. They're all Nityasiddhas, they're always with Krishna. There's never a time that they're separated from Krishna. And Narada Muni is sharing a story about a previous life where he wasn't aware fully of his relationship with Krishna. So this is very inspiring because sometimes when we hear about the Goswamis, we think, they've always been pure devotees. I was never a pure devotee. It's sometimes difficult to relate. So I find this story very beautiful because Narada Muni tells his own story. So Prabhupada says in the purport, Srila Narada Muni is giving a practical example from his past life. Formerly, during the previous lifetime of Lord Brahma, Narada Muni was one of the denizens of Gandharva Loka. But unfortunately, as will be explained, he fell from his exalted position in Gandharva Loka, where the inhabitants are extremely beautiful and expert in singing. He fell from that position to become a Shudra. Nonetheless, because of his association with devotees, he became more fortunate than he was even in Gandharva Loka. Even though cursed by the Prajapatis to become a Shudra, in his next life, he became the son of Lord Brahma. Narada Muni is the son of Lord Brahma. So even though he was cursed to become a Shudra, in his very next birth, he gained such an elevated position. Why? Prabhupada says, because of association with Vaishnavas. The word Mahakalpe is described by Srila Madhvacharya as Atita Brahma Kalpe. Brahma dies at the end of a life of many millions of years. The day of Brahma is described in Bhagavad Gita 8:17. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Ahar Yad Brahmano Vidu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojana. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together in the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Bhagavan Sri Krishna can remember incidents from millions of years ago. Similarly, his pure devotee, like Narada Muni, can also remember incidents from a past life millions and millions of years ago. Let's offer our prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this begins, Narada Muni says, millions and millions of years ago. This is how special Narada Muni is. Prabhupada says that he can remember his life millions and millions of years ago. So in Gandharva Loka, he existed as a personality named Upabarhana. And it's explained that he was a Gandharva with a very famously beautiful voice. And Narada Muni says, I had a beautiful face and a pleasing, attractive bodily structure. Decorated with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp, I was most pleasing to the women of my city. Thus I was bewildered, always feeling lusty desires. Once there was a Sankirtan festival to glorify the Supreme Lord in an assembly of the demigods, and the Gandharvas and Apsaras were invited by the Prajapatis to take part in it. The Prabhupada speaks in the purport how the Sankirtan movement is not only here, but it also exists on other planetary systems. And that the Hare Krishna mantra is not just chanted here, but also, again, in other planetary systems. He says, including Brahmaloka and Chandraloka, not to speak of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka. The Sankirtan movement was started here on this planet 500 years ago, which we are very fortunate for because it was directly by Lord Chaitanya himself. But in this case, a Sankirtan festival is being held by the Gandharvas for a special occasion. What for? To glorify the Supreme Lord. So he continues, being invited to that festival, I also joined, and surrounded by women, I began musically singing the glories of the demigods. Because of this, the Prajapatis, the great demigods in charge of the affairs of the universe, forcefully cursed me with these words, because you have committed an offense, may you immediately become a Shudra, devoid of beauty. So what happened? Upabarhana came to the kirtan on invitation. The festival is going on. And he is thinking, what a nice occasion for me to come, because he was a very beautiful singer. Not only that, he had a beautiful form, he was famous, he was well known, he was well appreciated. But in this instance, because the kirtan was meant for glorifying the Lord, and he began to sing songs glorifying the demigods, the attendants of the Sankirtan became angry with him. So it's funny, it's so quick. He begins to sing these songs, and then all of a sudden he's cursed and he loses his position. For us in Kali Yuga, most of us, we don't have to worry about being cursed. In Kali Yuga, nobody really has the potency to curse anymore. If anything, they'll just write about you on Facebook, maybe. But no curses. So in this instant, these personalities were so powerful that they had this potency. What are you doing singing about someone else? This is a Krishna kirtan. So I curse you. Sometimes when we read these pastimes, we think, I mean, that's a bit extreme, you know. Just tell him, hey, this is a Krishna kirtan, and tell him to sing something else. Why the curse? Prabhupada explains, not in this purport, but many times people are getting cursed in the Bhagavatam, if you study. So he says in other places that these sages will curse for the benefit of that personality, that instantly whatever karmic reaction they were meant to suffer as a result of that mishap or mistake, instead of having it linger for millions of lifetimes, they immediately suffer that result and move on to the next stage of life. Does that make sense? So in this case, Upabarhana, the previous life of Narada Muni, he was cursed. Prabhupada explains in the purport, as far as kirtan is concerned, the Shastras say, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. One should chant the glories of who? Vishnu. Yeah, the Supreme Lord and the holy name of the Supreme Lord. This is clearly stated, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. One should chant about and glorify Lord Vishnu, not any demigod. Unfortunately, there are foolish persons who invent some process of kirtan on the basis of a demigod's name. Now Prabhupada is the Acharya. He's establishing the absolute truth. This is an offense. Kirtan means glorifying the Supreme Lord, not any demigod. Sometimes people invent Kali Kirtan or Shiva Kirtan, and even big sannyasis in the Mayavad school say that one may chant any name and still get the same result. But here we find that millions and millions of years ago, when Narada Muni was a Gandharva, he neglected the order to glorify the Lord, and being mad in the association of women, he began to chant otherwise. Thus he was cursed to become a Shudra. His first offense was that he went to join the Sankirtan party in the company of lusty women. And another offense was that he considered ordinary songs, like cinema songs and other such songs, to be equal to Sankirtan. For this offense, he was punished with becoming a Shudra. So it's important to note here, when Prabhupada is speaking about the association of women, of course he is speaking about Upabarhana, who was very lusty. Of course, we all do kirtan together. It's not the point of gender, but it's the point of one's consciousness. And because he was so lusty when he was singing, he was also singing in this lusty mood. Does that make sense? So this was his fault. That because he was overcome by lust, he couldn't glorify Krishna. He could only glorify himself. This is the result of this defect that we suffer in conditioned life. The potency of chanting is that the holy name is non-different from Krishna. And so therefore, because the holy name is non-different from Krishna, those who are attached to Krishna, they feel very protective of his names. So therefore, Prabhupada is speaking very heavily, only Krishna Kirtan. Kirtan means for Krishna. Why? Because he is a lover of Krishna. And the Bhagavatam is all about Krishna and his devotees. So sometimes we feel a little sensitive when Prabhupada is speaking heavy like this. But we should try to understand that what is Prabhupada's position? Krishna's always in his heart, and his mind and heart are always with Krishna. So because of this loving interaction, this ongoing loving relationship, sometimes it is important to speak strongly in favor of that loving relationship and that loving service. And in this instance, Upabarhana was cursed. So he says, although I took birth as a Shudra from the womb of a maidservant, I engaged in the service of Vaishnavas who were well versed in Vedic knowledge. Consequently, in this life, I got the opportunity to take birth as the son of Lord Brahma. This particular section was interesting to me because I had first heard this story from His Holiness Sachinandan Swami. I actually hadn't read this section of the Bhagavatam yet. but he spoke about it in a lecture. And it was intriguing because the setting was a Sankirtan festival, which now we're very fortunate, happens very regularly for us. We have Kirtan 50, Sadhu Sangha Festival, Holy Name retreats, Holy Name immersion. And it struck me that even though Upavarhana was in this setting where Sankirtan was going on, still, due to a small lapse of judgment, he was cursed. This is not to say that in the kirtan we should be paranoid all the time. I might make a mistake. I was spacing out. Somebody will get angry with me. But Gauravani said really sweetly earlier today that the kirtan is a gift that's been given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And when you receive a gift with love that you appreciate, then you want to care for it. You want to treasure it. You value it. You want it to be the center of your life, unless it's like a pair of socks or something. You know, kirtan is this incredible transcendental treasure, and it's been bestowed upon me. What a great fortune. And so, for me, I feel this way about chanting, that let me try and understand more what is the chanting. How can I do it in a way that's pleasing to Krishna? Even though we are so perfectly situated here at the feet of Radha Kalachandji, surrounded by devotees, we just heard about how powerful the association of Vaishnavas is, right? What is it that when the kirtan starts and when the kirtan ends, what is it that makes that difference? That when the kirtan ends, we feel change of heart or transformation, or we feel uplifted, or we feel ecstatic, or we feel inspired. That's what I would like to speak about today. The study of Srimad Bhagavatam and the hearing of Krishna Katha both goes hand in hand with the chanting of the holy name. Why? Because chanting is a labor of love. And how can you love someone who you don't know? Right? Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna Consciousness, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna all the time. We understand that the goal of life is to become a lover of Krishna and go back to Godhead. But if we don't know who Krishna is, why would we want to go back to Godhead and be with him? Right? It's like someone says, here is this stranger. They're the best person in the world. I won't tell you why, but you should love them. You think, probably won't happen, right? Even in our own relationships, this is understandable, right? You meet someone, you get to know them, you get close to them, intimacy develops, friendship develops, appreciation develops. Most of us here are married or in relationship, right? And that dynamic is even there in our relationships, that over time you have to get to know that person. You have to understand what that person likes and doesn't like. If you don't, you're in trouble. Isn't it? I told you so many times, you never listened to me. Why? Because when closeness is there, understanding also needs to be there. In order for appreciation to develop, we have to know each other. And so, why would it be any different for Krishna? That's why Srila Prabhupada was so urgently wanting to print his Krishna book, even before the Bhagavatam was finished. Did everybody know that? Krishna book was much earlier. Usually we're told, go through all the cantos, then you can hear about Krishna. And this is correct. I'm not saying this is not correct. But also look that Srila Prabhupada put the Krishna book out so early because he wanted to make sure that after he had physically left this world, we would have Krishna's pastimes available to us. He gave the holy name, but also with that, we have to also have relationship with Krishna. Who is Krishna? To the degree that we understand that Krishna is non-different from his name, to that degree then we start to develop an appreciation for and a curiosity about what our relationship with him is. That's why before the kirtan, you'll hear devotees say, please chant for Krishna's pleasure, right? Please remember Krishna is non-different from his holy name. Because in their heart, in our hearts, when we're chanting, we are going beyond the externals, right? What is happening? Upabarhana was in the same situation as us, externally. Sankirtan was happening. Not only that, the Gandharvas were so supremely talented, we can't even imagine. The closest thing we can imagine is maybe Yogi and Ananta. We can't imagine how talented they were. What to speak of the higher life forms in planets beyond that. What to speak of the gopis in Vrindavan. There's one purport Prabhupada speaks. The gopis are so talented, we're like frogs in comparison. So in this case, all the things are there. Wonderful instruments that we don't even know about, right? And ragas we don't even know about. So beautiful. But what was missing? Consciousness. Now kirtan has very wonderfully become such a desirable part of life in our movement, you could say. Everybody wants to go to the kirtan. It's amazing. You can see Lord Chaitanya's mercy. How many of us traveled from far away to come for this festival? Yeah. Why did you come? You could have stayed home, right? But you came all this way to chant together with all the devotees, right? And in order to really uncover that treasure of the holy name, when we come to the kirtan, we should also bring our consciousness. Sometimes it's difficult because you travel from far away, and when you come into the temple room, your body's still on the plane or on the bus, you know. You notice after the kirtan ends, everybody's talking. So much passion, so much vata. So we're in the right place. There is no better place to be. But next we have to bring our consciousness. You know, even in your own relationships, right? If you're spending time with your husband or wife and you're absent-minded, hey, you're not paying attention to me. I use this example because we can all relate. You're talking to a friend and they're on their phone. Yeah. Nice. You say, Prabhu, I went to Kirtan 50. It was so amazing. I saw wonderful devotees. And What do you feel? Like, I don't feel like this person really cares about me, right? That rasa that comes in the relationship is not there because it takes two people. So it's the same in kirtan. We are not all individuals coming to experience our own experience. Sankirtan, the prefix san is in relation to sangha. San means sangha. Sangha kirtan, not solo kirtan, right? Otherwise, what's the point? We come here and we want to do our own thing. It's not so satisfying. But coming together and all the devotees are here. Oh, it's so-and-so Prabhu. It's so-and-so Dasi. Right? And so much joy is there. Why? Because the rasa is there of relationship, which is essential to the practice of devotional service. So when we come together to chant, when we come together to participate in these kirtan festivals, before we come, we should think, what will my consciousness be when I arrive? We can ask ourselves, what do I want to gain? Because it should never be that when the kirtan festival starts and when the kirtan festival ends, we're the same person. Well, if you do kirtan regularly, that's a little scary because you can't pay attention every time, right? Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're tired. You imagine 12 hours of kirtan. How can I pay attention for 12 hours? But it's possible if we all do it together, supporting. What does it mean that Krishna is non-different from his name? It means that person that we're always talking about. God, the Supreme Person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the object of our worship. We have a whole life that's centered around and dedicated around principles that the goal is pleasing and serving Krishna. Getting up in the morning, chanting, keeping clean, not eating certain things, right? All of these things we're doing for Krishna, but we also, when we get to the kirtan, sometimes we forget that that same person is right in front of us while we chant. As you progress in spiritual life, the acharyas give so many different wonderful instructions in this matter. A primary function, or rather a primary focus of the devotee is navigating his relationship to his service to the Lord and the conditioned nature that he's entered the world with. Because as we try to progress in devotional service, one of the main difficulties is that we have 4 defects, is that we have conditioned nature, is that we struggle to pay attention, is that we struggle to hear, we struggle with all kinds of various anartas. Sometimes the kirtan starts and we feel very lazy. Okay, yeah, I'll wait till it gets good. And then I'll dance, and then I'll sit down and rest again. This is laziness. This is called vikshepa. It's actually mentioned in the Shastras, laziness. Myself included, right? We all know. Why is this important? Is it because judgment? You're very bad, you're very bad. No, it's not that. It's that the acharyas are explaining that when you've been given a treasure like bhakti, then we should apply ourselves in every way possible to be able to be qualified, not qualified, but to be a reservoir in which that mercy can flow. So therefore we look at ourselves and we take an honest look. Yes, yesterday maybe I wasn't able to focus my mind so well. This is very positive. It's not a negative thing. It's required because every opportunity that we have to chant is actually very rare. Sometimes we feel spoiled. 12 hours of kirtan for 3 days. Come on. But it wasn't always like that for us. We've been in this material world for billions and billions and billions of lifetimes. Now we have the great fortune of sitting in Bharahari Prabhu's kirtan. This is not an ordinary thing. This is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. So we should say to our mind, no laziness. Let's chant loudly. Let's focus our mind. If our mind wanders, let's bring it back. It's a labor of love. The kirtan is not just behind me, microphones and instruments and powder and harmoniums. The kirtan mandali here in Dallas starts in that corner, and it goes to that corner, and it goes out to that corner, and it goes out to this corner. It's not here. It's all of us together. That's what Sankirtan means. So we should not feel, I'm coming to watch a nice show. I'm coming to have a good time. I hope they sing my favorite melody. That's okay. It's okay. But it's not all, right? I want to impress this point that appreciation for the Vaishnavas is very positive. I'm not saying we should come, I don't mind whatever happens. I'm equal. I just want to chant Hare Krishna, No, I love Badahari Prabhu's kirtan. I love Amala Harinam's kirtan, right? But we should understand that what is happening in the kirtan is Krishna's being glorified. That's what's actually happening. And because that appreciation, that understanding is there in the chanter, then we also are appreciating. Understand? This was the fault of Upabarhana, that he was not in that consciousness. So we're very fortunate that we have many devotees here in our movement who do have that consciousness. So we should also try and do the same. The example is given that someone who believes in the value of gold, he will pursue gold whether he gets it or not. You remember like the gold rush where everybody was rushing to the west to go and mine for gold. And some people are going from the east coast all the way to the west coast, not knowing whether they would find gold or not. Many of them even died on the way. There's no car, there's no Uber, there's no plane. They were going in like a cart, horse-drawn cart. I'm going to find gold, I'm going to change our life. Right? So it's explained that we should have that same faith in Krishna. We can see already that we attribute our faith to so many things. We work very hard for money. Why? Because we have faith that it will make us happy. We've been trained from birth, right? Like we saw these wonderful girls were trained from birth to dance and play mridanga and do kirtan. So wonderful. But also many of us were trained from birth that money will make us happy. And because we put our faith in so many other things, when it comes time to chant, we were like, yeah, it's nice. But that faith, that strong faith that this is not different from Krishna, this holy name, and that everything can come from this holy name, that faith is required. It's not enough just to be a participant. That's not Sankirtan. Bring your heart, bring your mind, bring your faith. And when that happens, you will see miracles will take place in your life. Not that I'm saying, many of you here have experienced. There are many very advanced devotees in this crowd who have been chanting for 10 or 20, 30, 40 years. And they will tell you, yes, I have experienced. So the message of Lord Chaitanya has been given to us by Srila Prabhupada, who has opened all of these beautiful temples and brought Radha and Krishna to us. So for the rest of this festival, if we can really make an endeavor to bring our consciousness and our heart and our mind to the kirtan, you will see it'll be the best festival you've ever had. I want to end with a quote. I'm sorry, I have it on my phone. This is from the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 20, text 125. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Sanatana Goswami. He says, devotional service or sense activity for the satisfaction of the Lord. So I'll start over. Please everyone listen. Devotional service or sense activity for the satisfaction of the Lord is called abhideya, because it can develop one's original love of Godhead, which is the goal of life. This goal is the living entity's topmost interest and greatest wealth. Thus one attains the platform of transcendental loving service unto the Lord. So that's what this Kirtan festival is. The sense activity for the satisfaction of the Lord. Krishna likes sweet Kirtan. Krishna likes sweet mridanga playing. Krishna likes sweet kartal playing. But most importantly, Krishna wants the sweetness of the loving exchange with his devotees, which is each and every one of us. We shouldn't have any doubt, no doubt, that Krishna wants to have a relationship with each and every one of us. Kalachandji is not just standing there to look good, even though he does. He's standing there, why? To accept our worship. Isn't that special? He's come all this way. It's a very beautiful story how this deity came as well. So literally he came all this way to accept our worship. And so for the next couple days, please think of that Krishna is waiting for us to share with him in this loving exchange. And therefore he has facilitated all of this. We didn't facilitate. We do the sound, we tune the instruments, we do the microphones, but actually all of this is happening by Krishna's grace. So we should feel, what should I do with that grace? So if you would like, you can ask yourself, what could I do now that at the end of this festival, my future self, not just my body, but my future self, a devotee of Krishna, will be grateful? So I'll stop there. There are so many things you could say. We could go on and on and on about chanting the holy name, but we have a whole full evening ahead of us. So we'll stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Let's give Ananta Gauranga Prabhu a big Hari Bol. Just want to